Hey, it's Kaero. Welcome back to the channel. In this next episode of generating and rating artificial intelligence based magic cards using Urzas AI. Our scale is 10, an absolute bomb, busted. 0, absolutely unplayable. If you like the video, please hit that thumbs up, consider subscribing, and without further delay, let's get into it. Okay, first up we have vraskas Dread Maw. 1 red, 3 generic for a creature. It's a Vanguard. Doesn't really look like a Vanguard to me, but I don't know. I guess anything could be a Vanguard. If it's a Dread Maw too, that's fine. It's just a bonus. 3 power, 3 toughness. It has haste, so not bad for 4 mana. And as long as vraskas Dread Maw remains on the battlefield, it does 2 damage to any target. Wait, so it enters the battlefield, it's on the battlefield, it does 2 damage to any target, and then it remains on the battlefield. How often is that checked, and how often can this deal 2 damage? Is it the beginning of every turn? It's like, yep, it's on the battlefield, 2 more damage. Pretty crazy if that's the case, but I think it probably functionally just comes in and does 2 damage to any target, which is actually not bad for a 4-drop for 3/3 haste. In limited, that would be very good. The flavor text is, how long will I be trapped? I'm afraid it's no longer a choice. That kind of goes with the card's name, because it remains on the battlefield, it's trapped on the battlefield, and it starts thrashing about and dealing 2 damage to any target. For a limited, I think this is like a 7 or an 8. Constructed, I would say it's like a 5. Next up, we have Ethereal Crafter. 1 white mana for a Vampire Noble, 1/1. And as Ethereal Crafter enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. And when Ethereal Crafter leaves the battlefield, return Ethereal Crafter to its owner's hand. This card is very good. This is 1 mana. You play this on turn 1. You block something. It bounces back to your hand. And effectively, every turn you can pay 1 mana just to bring this back and gain 3 more life. Not to mention bounce effects. Or, I mean, this is just a chump blocker all day long, right? This is great in control as a 1-drop. This is probably... I mean, this would see constructed play. This is probably like a 9 or a 10 out of 10. This is very, very good for stalling out the board. It's not going to do any damage, but it's just going to make you basically impossible to kill. Forget even having more than one of these on the field. This is very good. The flavor text is, to view his hands, one should consider him the goddess who accepts neither sacrifices nor feasts. That's just only if you want to view his hands, though. So if you don't want to view his hands, then don't worry about all that nonsense. But if you do, you got to follow those rules. This is like a 10, I think. This is very good. Next up, we have Rechargeable Psyche. 2 red, 4 generic. That's expensive sorcery. Create a 2/2 black Phyrexian horror creature token with whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield, you may pay 1 generic mana. If you do, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain that much life. Okay, first of all, we got to talk about the art, because this looks like a mass of like flesh and weirdness in front of a city, which I'm like pretty big fan of because it's so strange and so creepy. It looks like there's maybe like a stack of books on top of it. It's really, really strange art, but it's really cool. As far as playability goes, this is a 6-drop, makes you a 2/2 Phyrexian, which is not going to do anything, and then you got to cast creatures with power 4 or greater, and then even then you have to pay mana. And then it only drains the opponent for 1 life and you gain that much life. This is way too slow, not a powerful enough effect for 6 mana. This is probably like a 1 or a 2. The flavor text is, the Dark Knight is ready to plunder. His great guns may pierce to my heart, but I will die alone. Oh, very sad. Charlia, I'm very sad for you. More sad for this card, though, because it's a 1. Okay, this next one I'm not sure how to pronounce. It's either Isia Dragon or IKEA Dragon or something. 4 generic, 1 red, 1 green for a Vampire Berserker, which is interesting because it's apparently a dragon, but it's also a vampire and a berserker. I guess you could be a Vampire Dragon Berserker. 4 power, 4 toughness for 6 mana in Gruul colors. That's just weird. No abilities. Flavor text is, aiding with strength is another natural talent of all but a few of the humans. This card's really bad. This is 6-drop 4/4. Doesn't have flying even. It's very basic. So if it actually was spelled IKEA Dragon with a K, then it would just be like a basic piece of furniture. Not good. It's like a 2. Next up, we have Snitch Apprentice. 1 blue, 2 generic for a human pirate. 2/2. Whenever Snitch Apprentice or another pirate you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So at first glance, this is like When another pirate you control dies, put a counter on Snitch Apprentice, but that's not the way it actually plays. It plays that whenever a pirate you control dies, that thing gets a counter, so it's just basically a 2/2 for 3 mana. What's the flavor text? The convicts squirmed, casting a miss if it was a pirate. The boy felt the stick tip move toward them one at a time. So is this like a pirate that's snitching on people that are not pirates because they're interrogating convicts, and if it's a pirate, they just disregard? I'm very confused by this. As far as a 3 mana 2/2 goes, it's not good at all. It's a 1. Let's move on from Snitch Apprentice. Here we have Chantilly Kiss, which is 1 black, 2 generic for a vampire Chantilly creature. It's 2/2 with no abilities, except you may cast Chantilly Kiss from your graveyard by discarding a card. If you do, Chantilly Kiss deals 1 damage to any target. So on the surface, this card's not very good. The only way I can see this card really being played is in a deck that cares about discarding its own cards, like maybe Self-Mill Reanimator or something to do with Madness. So you can play Chantilly Kiss, chump block with it, whatever, have it in the graveyard, and then discard a card with Madness, play that for free, bring back Chantilly Kiss, something like that. So this is heavily a build-around card, but on the surface, by itself, it's like a 3. Maybe you could get that synergy up to maybe like a 5 or something like that, but I think there are better things to play even in Madness decks or reanimation strategies. Next is Corpse's Hand. 1 black, 2 generic for a sorcery. Target player loses 3 life. For 3 mana, how do we feel about this at sorcery speed? I would like it if there was a little bit of life gain attached to it. 3 life is not a ton when you're tapping 3 mana to do it. The flavor text is, to those who died, I say, Mummy, I want you back. Ernie Nara. Okay. Kind of sad flavor text. I want to say that's a mummy, like a mummy wrapped in gauze, like we would see in Halloween. All right, Corpse's Hand. 3 life for 3 mana. I think it's probably like a 3, maybe a 2, because we'd want something for 3 mana to be like target player loses 3 life, you gain 3 life, and then maybe have like flashback on it so you could do it again and gain value later, even if it was maybe cost like 5 or something like that. I just don't think it's impactful enough. I think it's probably like a 3. Next up is Veiled Tyrant. 1 blue, 4 generic for a vampire rogue. Rogue is a good creature type, so is vampire, but it's 2/2 flying for 5. You can also pump it, but you have to pay 1 blue, 2 generic to give it +2/+2 till end of turn. You can do that multiple times, but you're talking about getting this to 4/4 flying. You're talking about 8 mana. That's just, well, I mean, you can split up over multiple turns, right? So you can do this later game, make it a 4/4 flying for 3. You could maybe even pump it again, but it's just basically, I think, limited play only, and I want to say maybe it's that pump ability needs to be a little bit cheaper. It's probably like a 4. It's very expensive for a 2/2 flyer. Next we have Targel Sphinx. 1 green, 2 generic for a Sphinx creature at 2/1. Not too bad for 3 mana. All creatures have sacrifice this creature, add 1 generic mana. This spell costs 1 generic less for each to cast for each target of its name. So the creature has the ability, this spell costs 1 less for each target of its name. Would that apply in any situation? So every creature, I guess you could mutate with this. That's the only thing, right? You'd have to have a creature with mutate, and you'd have to mutate it onto the same creature with the same name, and it would cost 1 less because it would have 1 target. That's the only way I think this could be played. But that aside, 3 mana for a 2/1, all creatures have sacrificed this, add 1 generic mana. That is actually probably very good in some sort of Eldrazi based ramp strategy. It doesn't give you any mana of any color, but I could see this being played in some formats on turn 3 with tokens. Sacrifice 4 or 5 tokens, little 1/1s, and then just ramp out something massive. I'm going to say this is probably a 6 or maybe a 6. You could build around it and make it like an 8. Okay, last card for today. Sword Fangs. 1 black, 1 generic sorcery. Draw a card, each player shuffles. Okay, it doesn't say each player shuffles their library, by the way. So is it just that you draw a card and each player just shuffles their hand up? Is that what this card does? So it's effectively 2 mana, draw a card, sorcery. Not good, but it is funny. It would be cool to keep playing this and have your opponent force them to shuffle their hand up. The flavor text is, in exchange for the feigned trickery of which the creature has revealed itself, many thugs and killers bid on them. Alright, so this card's like a 1, but flavor text I would say is like an 8 out of 10, because it's pretty funny to force your opponent to just shuffle their hand up.